Ready? If you know, would y'all help me say it? Water you turned into wine. Hey, there's. Come on, everybody in the building, raise this hand. It's none like you. Into the darkness, out of the ashes we rise. There's no one. Come on, raise it up, everybody, raise it. It's none. Come on, let's put it together as a family. Our God is greater. Our God is greater. Stronger. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. He's ultimate. Our God is greater. Stronger. God, you are higher. Our God is healer. He's ultimate power. Our God. Hey, and if our God is for us, then who? And if our God is with us, what can stand? And if our God is for us, then who? And if our God is with us, what can stand? And if our God is for us, then who? And if our God is with us, what can stand? And if our God is, then who? And if our God is with us.
Praise the Lord, Facebook and YouTube world. We are back again this week with Ladies of the Roundtable Part 2. We are here tonight unpacking the trauma. We're with a second set of women here from the Lighthouse of Hope Church, and we have a special guest as well. And we're going to just talk tonight. Ladies of the Roundtable, I would like to welcome the ladies here on tonight. And what I'm going to do, I want to go around and have each beautiful woman here on the panel tonight to just give me their name and a little background history, where they're from and what their profession is at this current time. So I'm going to start here on my left. Go ahead, my sister.
I am Sister Brandy. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and right now I work in a warehouse.
Amen. All right. Next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Moody Graham. I am a business strategist for my company CEO Mom Empire, and I'm just glad to be here to share tonight.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Sister Devin. All right. So we have here to my right.
Hi, my name is Faye Harper. I am a registered nurse. I currently reside in Belleville, Illinois. I'm originally from East St. Louis, and I am glad to be here tonight with you all.
Great. Welcome. All right.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
I'm glad to be here tonight as well. My name is Pastor Sharon Smith, and I have served as senior pastor at First Baptist Church. I am now attending Lighthouse of Hope Church. I previously served as a social justice minister in United Congregations of Metro East, being an activist, and that is why I'm at this table.
Amen. Virtual, give our panelists tonight a virtual hand clap, and we welcome each and every one of you guys here tonight. So we're going to move right along with our discussions on tonight. Last week it was amazing, And once again, this is not a solution-based panel. We're not here to come up with solutions on how we fix the injustice and the racism that's going on in our country. But we're just here just to chat, just to talk, just to have a conversation. I'm sure we have a lot of things in common, and as women, we have experienced a lot of things. And so we're just gonna try tonight to just try to help each other unpack a little of the trauma that we've experienced over the past several years. So I have a list of questions that we will go through, and I will call on each one. At any given time, you can speak into your mic and begin to comment or share an experience if the question relates to you. So the first question is, how did the recent death of George Floyd by the hands of police make you feel? How did the recent death of George Floyd by the hands of a police officer make you feel?
I was gonna say, who wants to start? Just you repeating that question twice, I cringed. It brought back trauma is such a loaded word, but it's so much. But even with you repeating the fact that that he died at the hands of police, and that he died, and even when I didn't want to see those things, seeing images, I replaying images. That was very dramatic. Trying to keep those images for my children, my son, mostly my oldest, because he's on social media. So he saw things that I didn't want him to see. He had questions, those things like that. So that brings back that I was angry. Well, I am angry, not was. So I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I'm still saddened. There's still, because of that, I did have to pull back from social media because my anxiety level, it definitely heightened. My anger heightened. And because, I'm around friends, and even in a virtual world, I had to it really showed me, during this time, it showed me who my white friends, who they really were. And I'm glad that the white friends that I have, they were really friends. I had people to check on me, text me, that it really shows they didn't get quiet. They actually got louder. And people who had never said things before were so outraged that it made me feel a little bit better. But I'm still angry. I'm still sad. I'm still upset that these are things that my son this is the world that he's growing up in. Mm-hmm. And I know we'll address some other things later, because raising children, period, but raising a black man, it is very, it's scary. I don't have another word for it. It's scary. Right. Even because you see these beautiful children, you see them grow up from little kids, and you love on them, and they're just loving, but unfortunately, to some police, their skin is looked at as a weapon, and now I can treat you less than because of your black skin, but to me, your black skin is beautiful, and you are loved, and you are kind. So, wow. But I'm still traumatized.
Wow, that's powerful. She said our skin is looked at as a weapon. Wow, mm-hmm. That's powerful. That's powerful.
We talk about this video a lot. I still haven't seen the whole video. I've seen bits and pieces, and I've seen enough to know what happened. I didn't want to watch the whole video because I believe that once you see stuff, you can't get it out your mind. It's forever there. And I just remember seeing the video of Philando Castile. Mm-hmm. That was trauma enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when this came, I had to turn away. I couldn't watch the whole thing. But I seen enough. It really made me mad because whatever this man did or didn't do wasn't worth losing his life.
Right, he didn't deserve
at the hands of someone that's supposed to de-escalate and protect and serve. They didn't do either, and it really angered me. I was mad, and because just a week before I did click on social media and I saw Ahmaud Arbery getting shot down. And then, shortly after that, you found out this man was running for his life throughout the whole neighborhood, trying to hide in ditches, till he couldn't run anymore, and he had to turn around to fight. It's just too much.
It's sad.
Too much.
It's sad.
And in addition, I was angry too. When I saw the video, I jumped up off the couch and said, "Why get your?" And I'm yelling, "Get your knee off his neck! You're killing him! You're killing him!" And I'm screaming at the television and at the same time crying, and because it was really terrible that he was killing this man, and he seemed to enjoy it. He had his hand in his pocket. He's looking around like, "So what? I'm doing this. You can't do anything about it." And he was absolutely right. No one there had the power to do anything about it. And he knew it. And he didn't expect anything to happen as a result of it. He was that sure that his color was going to be on the side of right. And I'm so glad he was wrong.
All right. Yes. It's traumatic. And the thing that gets me is that all of the people that was standing around at that moment, there was nothing they could do. Nothing they could do. I could imagine what the 17-year-old girl felt like. I know she's been traumatized, and she's probably going to have to go through intensive therapy for the PTSD diagnosis that I'm sure this event has placed on her. And it's not something that it happened today and it's gone in 6 months. It's a process to get through PTSD. And then reoccurring events will trigger that same traumatic event that they've experienced. So it's scary, it saddens me, and the more we talk about it, it keeps it in the forefront of America's mind. It keeps it in the forefront of our mind so that we don't just let it be another Mike Brown and it's off the scenes and nobody's talking about it. So I'm glad that we're allowed this platform to talk about it and to unpack the trauma, because I'm sure we all have experienced some trauma with the George Floyd situation. Sister Brandy?
I would just have to say that, to be honest, I was numb. I see it. You see so much of it. It's like, again. So what we gonna do now? Like you said, everybody sat there and felt like they couldn't do nothing. So what we finna do now? You know, the protesting is cool and stuff, but it's still like, what we gonna do now? We seen this before, over and over, and it's just not this generation. This has happened throughout history. So what are we gonna do now? Right. So I'm just like, okay, it happened again. I'm numb from it. So what are we gonna do now?
Right. And that's just what got caught on tape.
Exactly.
So can you imagine if he was that bold to do this, and he knew people was filming, he knew people was around, what have he been doing, you know, all these other times and all these other years he's been on the force?
Well, you know, they said that he had 18 or is it 24 prior cases where he was, I'm assuming, mishandling or abusing his authority. And so there were all kinds of red flags, So, Sister Binky, you said something. You said protesting is fine, right? So what are we gonna do? What's next? Do you all feel that protesting is effective? Is it effective? Do you feel like protesting is gonna make a difference, or is it just something that they're gonna temporarily do, and 6 months from now, the George Floyd situation will be off the scene, and we'll be on to the next African-American male who's going to be murdered or mistreated or abused by the hands of a police officer?
I think protesting it helps keeps it, like you said, in the forefront, and so it's still being talked about. But to a certain extent, that's all it is protesting. So what are we trying to get done with the protesting? I hear them talking about defunding police, for the police force in different cities and things like that. You know, I think that's one solution, but we still need the good ones, you know, for certain things. And so if we're going to do that, when we rebuild it, how are we going to rebuild the system?
Yeah, protesting pays off. Two of our greatest leaders died just recently, John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. And I've had an opportunity to be in Washington, D.C. with both of them as I sat with the National Black Caucus. And they taught me protesting in Gamaliel in Chicago, the same school that our president, Obama went to. And protesting does something when you organize. But protesting doesn't do anything when a bunch of people just get together and scream. You have to be organized. You have to have an organizer. You have to have people that plan and get together and know what the agenda is going to be. I think Bishop T.D. Jakes said we have to go from protest to policy.
Yeah.
And when we do that, then we have a focus and we have the agenda to put before our lawmakers to make things happen. That's what John Lewis did. From 17 years old to now, just laying down in his deathbed, 80 years old, because he has always been a part of social justice. But he started with protests with Dr. Martin Luther King and C.T. Vivian and took it through to policy. If you don't follow up with policy, you haven't done anything except stump around and make some noise.
All right.
I think the way you said it was just so eloquent, like really from protest to policy. And so me being a business strategist, mostly everything I do is very strategic. And so I'm outcome driven. So what's the goal? We're going to do all of this, but what's the goal? And so I think the biggest piece coming from, like, my mom was a part of CORE, and my aunt, she went to hear Dr. King speak in Atlanta. So I've always come from a speak your mind type thing. Like when I went to University of Illinois, celebrating the fact that not even just, it was only a little bit over 20-something years since I was there that they even allowed black students to stay in the dorms. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy me finding that out. I didn't find it out till I got on campus with Project 500. And so just knowing that, and we just kind of commemorated and walked around, but knowing that everything started with protests, with them sitting in at the administrative offices. You're not going to count us in numbers as students, but we can't even stay in housing. You know, we still have to stay in Champaign and stay in Urbana, stay in Champaign mostly with black families that would allow us to stay there so we can attend this university. And so just thinking about that, I have attended protests, but everybody protests in a different way. So I am the one, I'm going to fund, like, I have helped to pay on bail, pay people's bails and bonds. Right now, of course, Cash App. I'm Cash Apping here, Chicago, wherever I know people, that's where I'm sending. Who got a bail fund? Let me help that way. I can share information. I can get stuff out. Who needs to do what? You need some water, some supplies? I do that. So everybody just has to learn their part of it, because it's all, everyone has their place and their part. I can bring waters. I'm not going to be out all the time. That's just not what I'm going to do. But I can work strategically behind the scenes to see how we're going to get you some money so that you can, and when you get in trouble, then you got money to go through, and we sharing your Cash App, So I think it's just important that everyone know how to play their role and play their part so that they protest differently. So.
When East St. Louis stopped collecting trash, I don't know if any of you all remember that. And I was a part of that protest, and they threw us in jail. We had to bring our bags of trash, and the police told us, if you put the trash across this line, you are going to go to jail. And so several of us were designated. We had on black ribs around our wrist, and so they said, those that are designated, you're going to throw your bag over the line. And we know we're going to be arrested, but we've got our attorney waiting. So we threw our bags over the line, and sure enough, all the police force came out, grabbed us by the shoulder, and took us and threw us in jail. And there we sat for maybe 3.5, 4 hours. And the attorney of our organization came and got us out. But then the trash got picked up. You have to make it happen. Because nobody wants to give you what you want. The kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force.
Amen. Amen.
That's all I know.
Amen.
Stop giving me chills.
Amen. Amen. This is powerful. This is good. This is good. And what I want to keep in the forefront is what you said. So protesting is beneficial and it's good, but we have to move from protest to policies.
Absolutely.
P2. We need to move into P2. We're going to protest, but it's only effective if we move, if we're going somewhere. And so there has to be a strategy. There's a method. There's a method to the madness. There's a method, and the method is we got to go toward the policies. We got to go toward the policies. So the next question is, when did you experience racism? When, if you can think that far back, I'm sure as a child we probably have experienced it, but when did you first identify, or as an African American woman, black woman, that racism really truly exists? So when did it take place?
I know for me, I felt it a lot of different places. There's a lot of times, too many to count, but the one that stood out, that, you know what, the term, because the term wasn't then, microaggressions. I had microaggressions, they was going on everywhere, you know, as a young child. But when I called it out, like when I was there, it was my freshman year in college at the University of Illinois, in Central Illinois. I'm sitting in a classroom my freshman year. It was like our discovery course, and there was a young man. He was from Alton, Illinois, a young white teen. He was a freshman as well. And so they get to talking. We're in history class together. So we had one class and another history class. So I saw him like 2 or 3 times a week. So finally, they get to talking about affirmative action, right? So they're talking about affirmative action. Doesn't bother me one bit. I know I've studied, I read, I know what we're supposed to talk about. He has the nerve to say, well, you say you from East St. Louis, right? So how did you get in here? So he picked the right one. He very much so. He picked the right one. So I ran down my credentials, my ACT score, everything that I had done, the scholarships, the fact that I didn't pay anything out of pocket, the fact that I knew that my parents didn't have the money, so I had to get scholarships. And I did not say one ugly word to him, because he would have won if I didn't go off that way. He turned red, and he said, well, I don't even know why I'm here now. He never said anything else to me. Not only that, I had a friend who was a friend of his. He also did not graduate as well. And so he was in that class when they say, turn to your left and turn to your right. You know, 1 out of 3 of you may not be here. And so I guess he was the 1 out of 3. So I hope that stuck with him. But he literally turned red because I think he felt ashamed, and I hope he did, because he thought that just because I was from East St. Louis that I didn't deserve to be at one of the top schools in the state or the country. No, sir, I worked very hard to get here, and I graduated with the sun. I sure did. And so, yeah, that was like the time that I remember when I had already, my parents prepared me for that, because there's only 2% black students at the university.
Recently, just recently.
All right, Pastor.
Going to Walmart. My daughter and I were shopping, and the checker would not check us out. She saw a white lady behind us, and she told us that her line was closed. So we moved on, and then she told that lady, "Oh, ma'am, you can come on up." Oh, I can't tell you what names went through our head, but they went through our head. I'm going to tell you. My daughter and I said, you know what? Your day is coming, because you know that was wrong. Oh, we had to say something to her. We would have burst. But that was wrong. But we know why. We definitely know why. We didn't look like her. Throwing rocks is wrong, but I tell you, sometimes you just want to throw one.
Wow.
Not a solution, but a relief.
All right. Amen.
I experienced, like you said, it's so many
Yeah.
to count, especially when you get older. You get older and you start thinking about the things that you encountered when you were younger, and you start recollecting that was racism. I didn't realize that because I was 7, 9, 10. But one time we were over in Clayton and we were going to a marriage retreat. Me and my husband were standing in line, and the couple before us, they were checking in, and the lady at the front desk was, oh yeah, I give you a wake-up call, and going through all the protocols and what time breakfast is going to start. And, you know, we're at, where was it? It was with GPC. We would go to the hotel over and do the marriage retreat on Saturdays. And, I mean, just smiling at the lady, giving her all just everything that she could have even imagined that the hotel would offer for the weekend. Okay. So after she got done, so I walked up, me and my husband, I'm smiling. What can I help you? Just dry. And I said, she's like, can I help you? I looked at her and I said, no, you cannot. I said, no, you cannot. And she was like, why? I said, because you didn't treat me and you didn't greet me the same way you greeted the lady that just left. So no, you cannot help me. And I know why, because you think just because I'm in Clayton, we can't afford to be here, or I'm black and I shouldn't be here. So I said, no, you can't help me. So I said, where's your manager? Let her help me. So the manager came out, and I explained to her that I didn't care for the way she approached us, because I'm paying for this hotel for the weekend the same way this other lady, white lady, Caucasian lady, paid for it. She apologized. She gave us a day off our, weekend package. But it was just blatant, just like, I mean, smiling at the lady. Oh, we're going to give you a wake up. You get continental breakfast. You this and that. And you get valet parking. You get free this. And walk up. Can I help you? No. I'm sorry, but no.
Right. I get the same treatment, man.
Right. I'm like, how dare you? You know? I'm like, wow. But yeah. That's right.
I just want the same thing.
Right.
Just the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for more. I just asked for what I deserved.
Yeah.
And isn't it something on how we don't want any favors. We don't want any deals. We're going to pay for what we want. We just want to be treated equal. We just want to be treated like a human being. And especially when the person before me, a white person, you treating them as if they're royalty, of elite status. And then I walk up and I'm like the scum of the earth, And so for me, seeing those, it empowers me. It empowers me to prove to them who I am. Right. Who I am. And so I know some people learn to just accept their behaviors. They accept their behaviors. Prime example was going into restaurants, and these are upscale restaurants. I'm not talking about Applebee's. I'm talking about Ruth Chris, Tony's, different restaurants over in St. Louis, Bates. And you go in, and I want you to treat me just like you treated that white couple that just walked in, Or if my food is not appropriate or is not to my liking, I shouldn't be afraid to say it. I shouldn't sit there and eat it. Myself and my husband, we were just in a restaurant, and he has a hard problem with sending food back if it's not right. He tells me, you're going to complain. You're complaining. Don't send it back because I don't want them to do anything. But when I'm paying top dollars for a meal and it comes out wrong, I shouldn't be ashamed to say, sir, or talk to the manager, this meal is not right. Especially when I see white people do it all the time and then get free dessert and meals paid for.
And a smile.
And a smile. And a smile. Amen. And a smile. So I no longer will accept that because I don't have to. I don't have to. Sister Binky?
I think the first time actually that I guess didn't know the word to describe racism, I was in second grade. I was in a program. I was living in, the inner city, and they was busing us out to the county or suburb schools for their deseg program, desegregating the classrooms in the schools. And I had a substitute teacher. She was letting, pretty much all the classrooms probably had maybe one black student in it. And so I was the only one in my class. And we were having indoor recess, and she was letting everybody do certain things, but when it came to me, she wouldn't let me. And I was just like, okay. I didn't too much know the word racism, but I knew the difference of I'm the only black girl in here, but I'm the only black kid in here. And I know that the way she treat them ain't how she treat me. And I don't like it. And as a second grader, I'm always been a very boisterous person. I told her, I don't like white people. And she said, well, I don't think that's something you should say. I said, well, I don't think you should treat me the way you're treating me. And letting those kids do what they want, but you won't let me. She was like, well, I think you should just go to the office. I said, that's fine. They sent me home with a note to my mom, and she was like, well, what is this? I'm like, well, they gave me this because I told them I don't like white people. And she said, well, why would you say that? And I was like, well, she was letting the other kids do stuff, and she wouldn't let me, and she was treating me differently. And she was like, oh, and of course, that was a problem. So I think the first time I noticed it was in second grade. And it's sad that I noticed it then, and I didn't know the word for it until I got older, but I definitely noticed it when I was a child, going to a predominantly white school.
Have you guys noticed with all of us have children, and I knew I went to school in East St. Louis. I'm a mighty Tigerette, so Lincoln, whoop whoop. and so
Go Flyers!
And so I can't say that I experienced racism in school, but our children that we are raising, because we decide, okay, we're going to give them a better life. We're going to move from the city. We're moving on up, moving on up. And so believing that we're doing what's best for our children, and putting our children in very diverse environments. Have your children experienced, or are you aware of, or have you ever had to face the situations in school where, as a parent, your child has noticed the difference, or noticed that racism is still alive and well in our schools, and our children are being treated differently? And have they ever come home and expressed to you how it made them feel, and what was your response? How did you deal with the situations?
I think with my, and I'm going to speak about my oldest child. She's 22. She graduated from Belleville East. She's now currently going to SIUE for her early childhood education degree. But, and I know this is a little bit off topic, she really experienced more, I don't know if I should say racism from her own kind. You know, they treated her, she wasn't black enough for the black kids, and she wasn't white enough for the white kids. So she was in that middle, to where she did have a little bit more white friends in elementary school and middle school, but when she got to high school, she wasn't hip enough for the black kids. And that bothered me a lot, because not that you expect them to have to deal with racism from the other races, but it even hurts more when you're dealing it from your own people. So she didn't have a lot of issues with the Caucasian race giving her trouble. It was more so her own kind that she didn't feel comfortable with. Yeah. Sad to say, but.
I have kids that are younger, like elementary school kids. They haven't necessarily experienced racism, but I have taught them what it is and to be able to be aware if somebody's treating them differently. So my son, of course, is kind of like me at his age. He's in second grade as well. He notices differences. So he'd be like, oh, that white kid said this, or that white. He knows the difference now of if someone is treating him differently because of his skin color. His little sister, not so much, but I feel like it's just something that today's kids should be aware of and know that that's something that is unacceptable and you don't have to accept it from anybody.
And so just thinking about the fact that we have to talk to our children at such a young age, it hurts. It really does hurt because, you know, while Sally and Susie just playing jacks, you know, we have to have conversations, like, because my son was 9 when Mike Brown was killed. And I first saw it, I was on Instagram, it came in my feed. I think I had just gotten on Instagram, and I was like, what is this? And because I was trying to figure out why was this in my feed, what was going on, and then of course everything started going off with social media and with Facebook, and having this talk with him, because of course he wasn't on social media then, but just having these conversations with him are hard. And when I think about the fact that my children, they've been to different schools, mostly in predominantly black schools, and actually that's a reason I actually have kept my kids in predominantly black schools for that reason, because my son did have one issue with a white teacher, because my son he's gifted. He's very smart, not just because he's my child. He's smarter than even I was at that age. But he knew someone from elementary school, and when he got to middle school, you talking to him, but the boy, he got in trouble a lot. So eventually he had to go ahead and distance himself because the teacher was treating him like the other boy was acting. And so he was like, no, I'm not stupid. I'm not. And he's my child. He's gonna speak his mind. He's not gonna be disrespectful. But you're not gonna treat me like this. I'm making A's in class, but that was a kid that he knew. But you're not gonna treat me this way. And so of course, Greg, I gotta go up to the school because Greg talking back to the teacher, because that's what they say. So my thing is, what happened? And I can ask him the same questions. I want to hear his side. I'm never going to just take the teacher. I'm never going to have him disrespect the adult, no matter who it is, but I'm never going to just say that my child is wrong because this person is an adult. And my grandmother told me that you got to listen to both sides, because then if you don't listen to your kid at a young age, they will shut you out by the time they're a teenager because they feel you don't listen to them. Right. So let me hear both sides. So he did actually still experience that, because this teacher, because we still have to know, even in predominantly black schools, that you have white teachers that are coming there so they can get their student loans paid for, and teachers so they can get those student loans forgiven. That's it. That's all. And mostly white women, okay? So we know that, right? We know that. Right. And so making sure that they know that I'm a present mom. You can text me if you need to. If you got a problem, you can text me. And I'm mostly over here or in St. Louis, and I'm going back and forth. You can always get me. So he experienced that from a white teacher. And then he also did experience, because he was smart, my son he was like, Mama, I feel like I'm too smart. Like, he didn't want to be a nerd. I said, baby, I was a nerd, prom queen, all. You can do it all, baby. You can call me a nerd, whatever you want to be. I'm going to be a paid nerd. It's okay. So letting him know that, too, you don't have to be less than or mediocre. That's not what being black is, baby. Being black is excellent. You know, so just, let me see, excellence. Okay. But, you know, that was something that I had to get to him, because, unfortunately, a lot of kids, they were starting to hustle in middle school, and then some kids, they didn't make it to high school with him because they already dropped out hustling, you know, because they didn't see a better way. Right. So, yeah.
Right. I have one, and I don't know if it's a dilemma, with our kids going to diverse schools. I think it's good, but today generation kids are not embracing the color of their skin. I have, and not that they don't like the fact that they're black, they don't like the color of their skin. It's not that, okay, I'm African American, I'm black. They want to look like their friends. And so I'm brown. You know, they've changed, instead of saying I'm brown.
Well, I do that too. I don't like the term black.
You know, but they're trying to associate with their white friends. And as a parent, I think that we have to instill in our children that black is beautiful. You know, it's beautiful. You know, you don't have to downplay the color of your skin to fit in. But then what they don't realize is that they want to look like us. Our daughters, our girls, they don't realize that the power that they have. They want to look like us. And we're too busy focusing on wanting to be them. And they want what we have. And so we have to really raise our girls up to be confident, build their esteem up. Black is, you're beautiful. We come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But we're still African American. We're still black women, you know? And so I think that we have to teach, even if we put our kids in diverse schools, it's a good thing because, you know, it teaches how to maneuver, you know, a maneuver. And, but we do have to sit down and still have those conversations and let them know that your black is beautiful. You know, your black is beautiful. So
I was just having this conversation with my grandson, and I was telling him, you know, we were in Africa. Our ancestors were in Africa, and we were closer to the sun, so God allowed that sun to color our bodies. But there are other people that have to go and get in a tube, and so that they can get this pretty crisp brown that we carry. So don't ever be worried about your color because you didn't have to go and get crisp to get it.
Amen, amen.
I'm so happy that lately that this natural hair movement has been progressing because you know, I never thought about it as a kid growing up. You know, you think about it when you're getting dressed for Easter Sunday or Sunday, you always press your hair out and oh, you so pretty. So what was I on all those other days when my hair was just puff balls, you know? So it subconsciously taught us that is beautiful, you know? And I think that carried on for years with us, you know, as black people. And I'm just so happy now that we're starting to embrace our own natural.
I'm even grateful that we are allowed, and I don't know when this changed. I'm sure there were court cases maybe with African business women in corporate America wearing their dreads, their braids, and things like that. And I'm so happy that I am seeing where it's more accepted now, that we don't have to take our braids out of our hair after our summer vacation because we have to go back and put our suit on. We could keep our braids, our cornrows, our afros in and be just as productive as the next woman.
My nursing instructor, white lady, Caucasian lady, went on vacation. She came back with her hair braided up. She was the talk of the university. You know, her hair. And I'm just amazed how some other black women have to fight to wear their natural hair in braids, and she comes back and it was just like, oh, her hair, you know. She's amazing. Yeah.
Then what was mine 2 weeks ago? No. Okay. So I'm going to put a different spin on this because I want to get to Pastor Sharon in regards to, and this is a question. It said, what has been your experience with police? What has been your experience with police? I said it last week, a lot of African-American women, we haven't really had a lot of experiences like males, our black males. as far as being racially profiled or being treated unfair. And so we went on into more so in the workplace. And so I would like for Pastor Sharon to kind of expound on that, because she comes from a line of African-American male police officers. She was married to a police officer, and her son now is a U.S. Marshal, I think? Yes, sir. A U.S. Marshal. So I'm sure you have heard some stories that they've come home and shared, and even their thoughts about what's going on now with us losing our black men at the hands of white police officers. And so if you can shed some light on that for us. And
Sure, absolutely. And then I turned around and went to the Citizens Police Academy, so then I could gain some knowledge on what is and what is not. And actually, that's usually our conversations around the table. Whatever incident happens, my ex-husband, who knows everything and is usually not in agreement with me and my son, who study the law much better. Kill me for saying it. But we argued deeply about the Michael Brown situation and all of the other serious fights, serious deaths that have occurred with the police. And the one thing we say is it a good shoot or not? Was that a good shoot? Was that a good shoot? Was that a good shoot? And many times that we're not on the same side, because, you know, we've been taught what's a good shoot and what was not a good shoot. And the guy running with the taser after he had fought with the police, we know that was a good shoot, even though we were taught that, you know, we heard everybody complaining that was, you know, the guy was running away. But the way they are taught is that if you are running away from the police and you have a weapon in your hand, you could still injure the police, so that will be a good shoot. Because you have something in your hand and all you have to do is turn around and do this. And that is, in essence, what the young man did. But it didn't have to go that far. This is what's the problem here. It didn't have to go that far. He's supposed to be de-escalating, as you said, protect and serve. Had he been white, he would have de-escalated immediately. Immediately. But that is not what they do. When it comes to black men, de-escalation does not happen. It is not practiced. When it comes to black women, they will de-escalate.
But in some cases, we find that they're not de-escalating. They treating some of these black women just like they men.
You know why they're de-escalating, though, don't you? Yeah.
Patting them down.
They de-escalating for those digits. Yeah. I was arrested and for grand theft auto, as a matter of fact, and with St. Clair County Police, and they arrested me, and I also got the charge of resisting arrest, and this was by a black policeman, and he was very rough and twisted my arm, actually, and threw me in the police car, took me to St. Clair County, and was really rough. They was really mean to me, and that was my own. This is why I say everybody's not bad. This was my own. And I stayed there for one day before St. Louis County came and got me. And St. Clair County was, of course, filthy, and St. Louis County looked like the Marriott. I was treated like a queen over there and like dung over there. So
what you're saying is, as far as there are some I'm going to use the word justified shootings.
Yes.
And when it comes to African-American males, de-escalation is put on the back burner.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Instantly, their minds
Absolutely.
goes to, okay, this is going to be justified for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Right.
Which
And
makes
if
it...
they have this saying, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
So,
Yeah, speaking about that, what's his name? I can't believe I forgot his name. But the guy at the Burger King, the police shot. If you watch the video, we watched the whole video. It's about 12 minutes long. And how the whole time, the young man that got killed, he was the main one trying to de-escalate.
Right.
He was like, I will leave my car here. Just let me walk home. Let me call somebody to pick me up. You know, I'm just trying to get to my daughter's birthday. I don't want any problems. I'm sorry, sir. You know, just let me walk. I won't. His car was there. You got his name, his address, his ID.
Right.
He wasn't. I mean, he wasn't. What he did not cause.
That's right.
Was not a cause for him to be murdered.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing that he did, nothing that George Floyd did, none of them justified their life being taken.
But say they live by that code. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6 because they are taught to put down the threat. And as long as they're putting down the threat, that 12 that's judging them, 9 times out of 10 is going to be on their side.
Right.
Regardless of what the community thinks, regardless of how the community feels, that 12 is going to 9 times out of 10 judge accordingly. That's why this clown that was killing George Floyd was so relaxed.
Right. Yeah. So my question, and I've always had this question, and it with each situation that has gone on in our country when it was pertaining to a black male getting murdered at the hands of a police officer, I always ask the question, and so maybe you can help me understand this, or somebody can. Why is it shoot to kill and not shoot to wound or injure? Why can't you aim to shoot in a leg if they're running or
That's
a
not the
arm?
teaching. That's not the teaching.
It's shoot to kill?
It is put down the threat. Put down the threat. If I shoot you in the leg, I have not put down the threat. You can still hurt me. So putting down the threat means I am going to get rid of you being able to hurt me.
My Lord.
So when somebody says, well, why didn't they just tase them? That didn't put down the threat. You can tase somebody, they can get up and whoop your behind. But they are taught, this is their teaching in their training. They taught me, put down the threat. And I argued with my sister one time about 10 minutes. Well, that person could have just had a screwdriver. That's a weapon. And if that person has a weapon and is running away from the police and has a screwdriver and turns it around and throws it, it hits the policeman in the eye. That policeman is at fault, not the suspect, because you put down the threat.
So that's good information. I mean, that's good information for me to know. And so what would you suggest, or how would you steer, or what are some things that you said to your son, who's a U.S. Marshal now, you ladies, your son who's 15, I know, Sister Brandy, your son isn't old enough, but there are conversations that we have to have, Sister Faye, that we have to have with our African-American sons on when you are approached by a police officer, what should you be telling, or what have you told your son, your African-American, your black son? What have you told them when it comes to an authoritative figure? I mean, now, especially a white officer, but all officers are taught that.
That's true.
So what are you telling, or what have you told your child? on how to handle those situations.
I have to tell mine to be quiet. That's the first thing, because he talks a lot, and I don't want him. It's it's a time for everything. So I actually cringe when my son wants to go to the movies in O'Fallon. I cringe because it's always police cops out there. He's not that he's doing anything wrong, but it's always lots of kids out there afterwards. I will sit in my car and go to sleep, get there about 20 minutes before the movie is over. So you know my car right here. Come get in this car. I know you want to go and say hey to the little girls, and because y'all was sitting next to them while you told me you're going with your friends. I've been there, done that. I know that. But I need you to see my car and come get in this car. Say your highs and goodbyes, get in this car. I also asked the other young men that he know, when is your ride coming? Because I don't really want them lingering.
Right.
Little girl, where your people? Like, I really don't want to leave them up there as long. Okay, she said her ride on the way. Then I end up taking my car be packed a little illegally because I'm taking other folks' little boys home because I don't want you out there because you don't even know who's coming to pick you up.
That's right.
So I tell him to be quiet. I tell him to listen. Only answer the question. You can tell them that you want to call your parent. If don't reach in your pockets. Don't make no sudden moves. Don't do nothing. Let me get to you. Let me get to you. And that's sad. It's sad. That's so sad that he just going to the movies. Going to the movies. And I'm just like, it's always police officers all around the movies. I don't really let him go to the mall that often. I ain't have to worry about it during the pandemic. I ain't gonna say I wasn't happy. But, because it's police there. He can only go, certain places. He don't get to go play basketball with anybody because I don't know who mad at this brother, big brother, or whatever. I don't know. So I tell him to be quiet. I tell him to, bless you, I tell him to not to make any sudden moves and be respectful. Say yes, yes sir, no sir, whatever. And then when asked something, say, I need to call my mom. That's it. That's it. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
For the most part, my son doesn't go out very often, but that doesn't mean much because he likes to go up to the gas station to get Polar Pops like 10 times a day. And so, he could get pulled over just going over there. But, I just teach him, you don't have to get smart with the police because you're legal. Your registration is good. Your license is good. Your car, your blinkers, everything works. So if you get pulled over by the police, I tell them, they supposed to tell you why they pulling you over. I say, just say yes, no. I don't even, I know you don't have to say sir to them. That's how just yes or no. Yeah, right. And they like, where are you going? What do you need? Why are you pulling me over? I said, just ask them. You got a right to know why they're pulling you over. And to me, you have a right. They're supposed to tell you when they walk up to the car why they're pulling you over. I just tell them, don't reach in your glove compartment. Don't reach into, just keep your hands on the steering wheel. Just answer the questions and go. Just make it home. All the extra is not necessary. He's not one that talks back. He's very respectful. He doesn't talk a lot. He's just straight, yes, no. And that's all. That's what you need to do. And if, just make it home and we'll handle the rest. That's all I have to tell.
For me, I have, since my son is 7, again, I talk to my kids, and he knows a lot of the things that are going on. And, I just let him know that there are bad cops and there are good cops. So now he has a thing. He wanted to be a cop himself. He always said that. And I'll be like, why do you want to do that? And so he likes cops. But now he knows, he's aware. And he will ask, are you a good cop or you a bad cop?
Wow.
He'll ask a cop, are you a good cop or you a bad cop? And usually, of course, they're going to say, oh, I'm a good cop, But to be honest, I feel like it's nothing you can really, your child can be the nicest kid and the most respectful child to a cop. But if that cop is racist and has anger, it's nothing that they can do right. If that cop already has in their head that your child, because of their skin, is a threat. Because if they feel like they're a threat, whether they have a weapon or not, they're going to aim to kill and know that they're protected, you know. I saw on the internet not too long ago, you were saying that your son, he doesn't say too much, but it was an autistic young man, and that kind of like, if you know, I've seen a lot that has made me cringe, but that one just really hurt my heart because you know you could tell, you know, not even knowing him, reading the whole story, just watching the video, I could tell that he was different, and you know, and then him saying it, I'm just different, you know, and he was complying, but they didn't understand, and yet and still they found him as a threat, as small as he was, as you could tell, as meek as he was, that he wasn't a threat to them, but they seen him as a threat because of his skin. Didn't ask him what was going on just because somebody made a call, a false call, you know, which a lot of them do. White male and white females do a lot of those false calls. They saw a black man or the black man doing this or the, you know, just anything. They didn't ask. They just assumed, you know, and even though he was just as calm and meek as anybody could tell he was, they still saw him as a threat. So I just really feel like it's nothing that you can truly tell your child, just to pray and cover your child. That's it.
I saw that too, and it devastated me because I too have a special needs child, and thank God he is not. He doesn't have to deal with a lot of things because myself and his dad, we kind of take full care of him, and so he wouldn't be caught by himself or out by himself. But I remember an interview with D.L. Hughley. He has an autistic son, and I think it was doing that Mike Brown, and then it was the Trayvon Martin, and a couple of other famous actors that have kids that have autism, and the tears that flowed down his face when talking about his son, who's a high functioning autism, which is probably Asperger's, they can still drive, they can still work jobs, but there are sometimes they're different. And how you would approach a child that's special needs and treat them as if they're an animal, it's disgusting. It's devastating. I'm cringing just at the thought of you have to be some kind of animal to treat a human being. Whether they're blue, green, yellow, black, white, you shouldn't feel like it's okay to ever treat a person that way, let alone a special need. And most time you could tell if a person is different, and not only just a child, but there are some adults that are special needs. There are adults that have mental illness that's uncontrolled or they're unmedicated. Does that give you a right to treat them like a dog?
But they take time to
De-escalate.
They take time to realize that they are special needs when they are a different color. You know, I have a brother, he has 2 special need boys, and he lives in Hawaii, and he refuses to move back here because it's so racist compared to where he lives, and he refused to bring his son, even his whole family is here. He's not going to bring them here because he does not want to take the chance on them dealing with what he dealt with when he was here. He went to SIU Edwardsville, and by him traveling the world in the military, you know, it's not as racist as it is here. When he came back here to Illinois, Missouri, he was just in awe of the blatant racism that was just out front with unapologetic racism. Compared to Hawaii and California, they wasn't as racist in those places as they are here. We're so used to it that it doesn't, but somebody that's coming in, we live in an area where it's a lot of military families, and they, right off the bat, it's what's with all the racism? White folks, black folks, you know. It's amazing. Yeah, he's not gonna bring his kids here. You know?
I have friends like that too, that stay out the country. Like, I would definitely love to move out the country. I love Europe. It is definitely totally different. A friend of mine, she's from outside of Atlanta. She went to Spelman, and she's been in France for like 20 years now. She has twin boys, and they come and visit you know, when they go on holiday, but she will never move back here. She's married, her husband is French, and she won't ever come back here. She has twin boys, and like even the crime is different. You know, there's crime everywhere, but they don't have guns on the street like that. So you might hear a pickpocket or somebody might get cut with a knife or something, but they don't have guns and stuff like that. So it's not that same type of violence. But, you know, that's one thing. She was just she'll be checking on me and checking on, you know, how y'all doing, you know, because, you know, she knows I have a 15-year-old son, and she was just like, how you doing? You know, how's it going? And they were protesting there too. They were protesting there. She would sit outside her windows and go out there because there's a lot of expats there. There's a whole black expat community in all these countries, and most of them have left because of racist reasons. And unfortunately, like you said, we used to it. We're used to it.
Wow. Is there anything that you, Pastor Sharon, before you knew that your son would be a police officer, did he experience, or there like guidelines that you, or conversations that you had with him back in the day when he was a young man, high school?
Oh yeah, when he went away to college, it's like your son. He's wanted to be a policeman. I want to be a policeman. He was 3. My husband would always be cleaning his guns and would have them spread out over the cocktail table. And my children were raised around guns, and that's part of my gun story. If they're raised around them, they won't have the inclination to go find them, touch them, shoot them. And this was my son. He was, see the gun, oh, I want to be a policeman, because his dad would always tell him, yeah, see if you know you can have one of these. I think he got one for his 16th birthday, but when he became a policeman, and he was in Crestwood for 10 years, and he was the only black policeman in Crestwood for 10 years. And for 10 years, he encountered the N-word every day. How come this N on my porch? I'm not going to do what this N tell me to do. Day after day, and there was no change. Change is hard to come, as you said. It's hard to come. Wow. But when he was a boy, yes, me and his dad told him, this is what the police is going to do, and this has to be your reaction to what they do. Don't you say anything. Don't put your hands in your pockets. Stand up straight. Tell them who you are. Have your driver's license. But don't say anything that they don't ask you. Whatever they ask you, you answer the question, can I call my parents? But nothing more than that. Don't get loud with them. You know, if they start cursing at you and get up in your face, because they will agitate you to see if you will respond. And not to protect and serve, but to agitate, you know, and frustrate black men. Because it's a different set of rules when your skin is brown, black. Yeah.
Isn't that a shame? That's a shame. That's a shame. And something you said, even as a police officer, you know, he earned it. He went to the police academy. He went through the same protocols and procedures that the white police officer went through, and black man still couldn't get no respect. He still couldn't get respected. I mean, even with a gun, even with a badge.
That's right.
And that's a whole nother segment. I've heard heard some police officers, African American police officers. I've had some conversations with them, and they've said, you know, just because we're police officers don't mean that we are not experiencing the same racism that our African American males are experiencing on the street. We're experiencing it in the workplace.
Because he got pulled over. He was parked up at a church up in Belleville, he and my nephew, and they had the cars, you know, parked opposite each other. And the police came, Belleville police came, one came on the side and one came and blocked them in. And so my son always loves these kind of incidents too, I have to tell you that. But then so he comes out of his truck, with his badge. And so he said, man, what you bothering us for? What you bothering us for? He said, well, what you doing on this lot? He said, flipped his badge, and he said, man, I need to call your sergeant, because you ain't got enough work. You up here bothering us, and we just parked. He said, that's why the guys from East St. Louis, the black guys, be saying you all are racist, because we are just sitting on this parking lot, bothering nobody. I am calling your sergeant. Give me your badge number. Sir. Oh, no, sir, it ain't nothing like that. He said, yes, it is, because we're not even moving. Right. And you up here bothering us.
My Lord. Wow. Well, all right. So we're going to do a little shift here, and we're going to talk about, and this question, it's about women and the services that we receive, whether the treatment, is there a difference in healthcare and things like that? So the question is, when it comes to women's health, what has been your experience? Physical and emotional health, mental health, any difference in care for men and women doctors, white or black doctors? So in other words, as for women, have you had seen a difference in the treatment that you would get if you went to a black doctor versus a white doctor, or when it comes to OBGYN, having a black OBGYN versus a white OBGYN, or having a male OBGYN versus a female OBGYN? Has there been any situations where you felt like you didn't get the proper health care or treatment that the white people have received, whether it was for yourself or for your child, and a lot of times it may be because they don't share resources or won't give you the resources. What has been your experience when it comes to your health?
I'm just gonna tell one story, but I've had things happen. A lot of times, outside of just being black, I experienced ageism because I look so much younger than I am. So I have 4 children, and when I was having my second daughter, third child, I actually went to, I was at Touche. Everything else outside of this one experience was pretty good because I knew people there, but my doctor was a black woman doctor. She was horrible. She was very rude. She was very mean. She was very short. And I told her, this is my 3rd child. I know my body. I'm not going home. I labor hard. I know this. I'm telling you, I'm not going anywhere, because my doctor he wasn't there. He was getting ready to leave, to go out of town, actually. And so they sent her in. I said, you can call my doctor, because I'm not going anywhere. That's what you can do. She was very rude. A lot of times, you have people who, like I said, I'm in a predominantly black area. A lot of times they think, okay, well, you ain't got no money, you ain't got no whatever, let me treat you this way. Unfortunately, and it is our own people, I would never recommend her to anyone. Somebody said, oh, you caught on a bad day. No, you can't deliver babies and have a bad day. No. And you have my life and my child's life in your hands. You don't get to have a bad day in that. And so that, well, you need to go home. You're not ready. If I would have gone home, then I would have been having my baby at home. So that situation actually rocked me, because I wanted to have black doctors. I didn't know. I actually appreciate. I like black male doctors versus black female doctors. But my OB, no. Wait a minute, hold on, let me get it right. This is my gynecologist. My gynecologist is a black woman. But let me flip it around. But unfortunately with that, that happened. And things could have been different had I not known myself, known my body, because I'm going in, I'm probably looking like I'm 22. No, ma'am, I'm not. And why would you treat me like that? Because if I was 22, then that would mean that I really don't know hardly anything. So why wouldn't you want to make me more comfortable and not, it was so bad. Yeah, I got all these degrees and stuff. My friends are goons. My friends was ready to fight her because she was very mean. She was like, you not pushing, and the anesthesiologist gave me too much. I was too numb, so I couldn't do anything. Okay. So they had to wait until, and she literally was yelling at me. My best friend was about to lose it.
All right.
She's about to lose it because are you yelling at her? You literally are yelling at her while she's in labor. So yeah.
So in that situation, you kind of experienced stereotyping before you even was able to have the proper care.
Yeah.
The proper care. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. The proper care. Has anyone else experienced where and racism? You know, that was stereotype. You know, they prejudged her before they even gathered any information. But racism, or felt like you didn't get the proper treatment because of the color of your skin.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was, because this doctor walked in the room. The receptionist had taken me to the waiting room, and this big doctor, he was for my vocal cords, walked in the room, did not introduce himself, walked me into the lab, and then began to push something up my nose. I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm getting ready to look at your vocal cords. I said, then tell me what you're getting ready to do. You don't just do something to me and don't say nothing. I don't even know your name. So he said, I'm Dr. Eichenbest. And I said, well, you didn't introduce yourself to me. He said, oh, I forgot. So he went on to examine my vocal cords, and did yeah. And that man yelled at me. Oh, my Lord. Did you yell at me? I'm sitting in the chair with, the tray all over me. And I said, nah, Well, I want you to come back, because, see, I didn't get it this time. I said to myself, and you won't get it next time. I got on up out of there, and I called patient relations and wrote him up and called him. And as a matter of fact, the guy said, never forget his name, Daniel. He said, this is not the first complaint that we've had on Dr. Eichenbest. Yeah, he's just totally rude. But I haven't seen him, never seen him again. He was totally rude. And I've never had a doctor that was rude, never. I've been over there 30 years. This is the first clown I ever ran into.
He got the right one.
I personally haven't really had too many experiences myself with any kind of racism as far as doctors. But I do notice, being in the healthcare profession, when I do go to the doctors with my mom or my husband, I never tell them I'm a healthcare professional. So I'm just watching, listening to what they say, how they present what they're going to do, And when you start asking them questions, they're very brief. A lot of times they're very brief with what they're going to do. But when you start asking questions, they start to realize you know a little bit more. So then they start trying to elaborate a little bit more on what they're going to do. Then how do you know I'm like, yeah, I'm a healthcare professional. I know this. So I do think because they coming into a room where, and I don't know if it's just them being arrogant and they're just talking down to just regular people, or if they're looking at you like you're African American, you won't know or understand,
Right. Right.
But I notice when you do come back and you research or you know what you're talking about, they do tend to treat you better, And so that's why I never, my mom like, well, she a nurse. I'm like, don't tell people that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing, and if they're doing what they're doing correctly before, And they do. It's been studies for years that they try not to give black women too much pain medication because they feel like we have a higher level of pain tolerance. So when we're asking for pain pills, they assume that we're addicts or we're, addictive.
And that happens to me too.
Yeah. When you could sit right next to Sally Sue, and she could ask for Vicodin and Tramadol and all day long, and they give it to her. But then when you ask, well, it's not time for you to get it yet. What do you mean? So
It's, I don't, and when you said that, I'm about to be like, what? And so, is there any research? Is that research based? Because I almost would ask, did you guys do some research or a population, a Caucasian group of females versus a black group of females and their pain tolerance? I don't think the genetics, you can't do a research or a study to say that this black woman is, her pain tolerance or threshold for pain is higher than this Caucasian woman. When all actuality, I think they might.
But they did so many studies on us as black women way back in the day. I mean, that's where the whole abortion, all that came from. And the father of gynecology, he worked on so many black women without sedatives, for years. So they used us during slavery times to just experiment on us.
Yeah.
So, they wrote all these books, and some of the books are still in the doctor's library that they use for their practices now.
Okay.
They still, believe that this stuff is true. Yeah. And if you're coming from a racist background and you're reading this stuff, you tend to feel, and if your father was a doctor, and his father was a doctor, and he's bringing you all this literature and educating you, teaching you, not educating you, teaching you, what he taught, it just trickles down.
Wow.
I know for me, I've always had a African American OBGYN. She's a black lady. She's amazing. She's in St. Louis, and I think all of myself and my sisters and my mom, we've gone to this same lady probably for about 25, 26 years. And she's amazing. She's amazing. And so I prefer a female OBGYN. In that situation, I've never encountered racism, but I have been in places where my son, when the nurses are trying to draw blood or do certain things, they could be a little rough, because they say black skin is tough. Well, I'm gonna need you not to be right. I'm gonna need you not to handle him, like that, right. Because our skin is tough. Or when African Americans, black people get tattoos, you notice they dig and they say, oh, it's hard to shave, your skin is so tough. No, I don't think that's always the case, and so that's just, it's stereotyping for one, your skin is tough because it's black, and so as far as racism and getting treatment, I haven't encountered it, but I think about the people that are in East St. Louis or black people that have the medical card. They're not treated the same. And I've worked at a social service agency and was told by both parties, white people and black people, on how the treatment they get when they have that medical card, Medicaid, Harmony or whatever. It's not private insurance. And they go over to certain hospitals. They don't get the same treatment because of the color of their skin.
Okay.
Now, a white person can have Medicaid, a medical card or whatever, and they get treated well. You walk in and you're black, you don't get treated the same way, And East St. Louis, they're not privy to all of the medical things or equipment that they need, just like the COVID testing. How long did it take to get down there in the city?
Ooh.
Oh. And so versus all of these other little towns, that because the population is black people, and so to me that's race, it's race. It's racism.
Absolutely.
We're treated totally
Absolutely.
different. We're treated totally different, and I believe that some of it is due to the system, but then some of it is we have to be taught and more knowledgeable about our rights when it comes to those things. And we have to advocate. We have to speak up.
That's right.
We have to speak up. And I love sharing information with other black people, especially ones that have special needs children or children with mental health or just advocating for their kids in school. We have to speak up because we have rights. And I think what happens is that we feel like nothing's going to happen. You know, nothing's going to happen. So we need to continue to, you know, speak up and talk about it and use these platforms right here to talk about it and share information. Okay, Sister Brandy, did you have anything to add to that? As far as
Not really. I haven't really experienced it. My mother and grandmother are both in the medical field, so anytime I have a doctor's appointment or my kids have a doctor's appointment, I'm calling her on FaceTime or just on the phone, or even if they leave out and they didn't tell me something, I'm calling to ask her, you know, hey. So I think it is something we just have to get educated on too, so we know what to say, what to ask about. But I don't think I've ever experienced any racism, and I think it's more today. They're more on alert. So I feel like now when I go to the doctors or if I'm taking my children to the doctor, they telling me a lot more than they were before, and they're super nice. Like, do you need this? Do you need that? You know, like that is not as you know, real quick as it used to be, where they come in and they're going out. They really explaining themselves now. So
That's great.
You know what? It is a shameless plug. It's not for me. It's for one of my clients, though, who is a medical doctor. I'm not going to release her name, but she's working for that reason. All the things that she knows as a black woman medical doctor, all the racism that our people experience, not understanding. She's actually in the process of we'll be creating an app. It's called Speak My Language Doc. I'm so excited for her. So I had to say that because her and her colleagues have experienced that, and my little cousin just got accepted to medical school. She was like, I'm so proud of her, you know, congratulations. She's about to really experience racism. And she, you know, that's what she's about to do. And she already knows that. She's getting ready to go to WashU. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Enough said.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm so excited about that because we need it. We need more advocates, and we need more people who actually understand and want us to understand, so that we can lower all these rates, you know, so that we can decrease the number of us that are dying from COVID, because we have all these other underlying issues. So, yeah.
That's great. So I have this last question, and it says, have you experienced issues when shopping or purchasing big ticket items like homes, cars, luxury items, purses, jewelry, clothes, just going in places and you're about to make you a big ticket purchase a big ticket item. And, you know, as soon as you walk through the door, you already
It falling.
you can't afford it. You know, they've already watched you right on out. You know, you won't get approved. So have you experienced that, and how did you handle it? If you've experienced, how did you handle it?
I necessarily haven't experienced it, but I've been there in the experience with someone else. My friend was buying a car, and he was going to pay for his car, you know, cash off the lot. But because of who we were and what we looked like, they assumed that we didn't know what we were talking about. So once he got to talking and telling them a little more about what he wanted, the guy, he started offering him, you know, certain things, telling him how much everything was going to cost, way higher than what it should have been, you know. And he was like, okay. He took out his money, said it right there. He said, I want that car right there. He was like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let me help you with this and that. He was like, I don't want your help no more. He said, you know what? I want that guy's help over there. He said, because you assumed that I didn't have the money to get what I wanted. Right. You tried to downplay me and give me just anything. He said, so now you lose this sale, and I want to work with the guy over there. And he might be just like you, but since you was the one that was over here talking, you just messed up for yourself.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I was with my mom, so I haven't had as many. Besides getting followed, I get followed around, but we all got followed around. But I was with Neiman Marcus with my mom, so I didn't realize. Me and my mom, we used to go to Frontenac all the time. I didn't really know it was a big deal Not that I come. I mean, we not rich or anything, but my mama like what she liked. So we in Frontenac. We were in Neiman Marcus, and my mom was getting a couple things, and I remember this apple. It was this gold apple. It was just like $20, like a paperweight or something. And so my mom, she goes down. She just this is pre-internet, because I'm like, I mean, this is so this is not email. She had catalog. She had a catalog, and so she had a card. She always paid her card. I paid her bills down. You know, everything. So they say her card isn't working. She said, well, you just sent me something in the mail that said, you know, this is she got her coupon, little mailer and everything. So the lady's gonna tell her card not working. She knows that her card is working. Ain't nothing happened to her card. So the lady, she comes back. She brings somebody else, and well, it's not working. Yes, you're not gonna be. She said, well, I can pay for it. That's not the problem. But I know my card is working, because I just got this in the mail, whatever. So they just kind of are dismissive to her. Then the one lady, it was something else. I can't remember the other item is. One lady just put the thing in the thing, put the apple in the bag, and was just like, just go. Mind you, she hadn't even rung anything up. My mom turned around, and I said, we just started walking. I said, Mom, did she didn't? She said, well, if she gonna slam it, she walked out the door. Nothing happened. She just literally threw the stuff in the bag and pushed it and just wanted her out the store. And from that point on, actually, my mom never ordered anything else. They just sent something. This was years ago. They just said, if you don't use her card, we're gonna close it. I was like, I don't care. Close it. Because she never bought anything else from there. Neither did I. Yeah, we want you out the store, and put the stuff in the bag and did that, and we just walked out. I think I was about 13.
Yeah. It's been multiple times where you go in and you get ready to purchase something, and just because you're you and you're your color, they treat you a certain way until they run your credit. And see, just because you're black, you don't have bad credit. Then all of a sudden, oh hi, their attitude change.
Make that purchase.
Every black person don't have bad credit.
Right.
But talking about purchasing, I have to tell my daughter a lot, because she has, and I get upset sometimes, because sometimes we're our worst enemy. We come down on ourselves more than we should. We feed into these stereotypes. She has a bad habit that if she goes in the store and looks for something, she feels that she has to purchase something. She can't leave out the store without buying something. I said, people walk in the store all the time, look, and they don't see anything, but she feel like they're watching her, and they're thinking she's stealing if she walks in the store and not buy stuff. And I'm like, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't feel, you should go, I walk in 15 stores at the mall and don't buy a thing and walk out. But I hate that she has fed into this stereotype where they just assume that she's stealing, or she can't afford something, so she feels like she has to buy something if she goes in the store. That really upsets me with her. I have to try to pull her out of that attitude. I'm like, come on, we just gonna go looking today. We're not buying anything, we're just gonna look.
Has she ever said why she does that? Do she feel like they're gonna think because she's black that she's stealing?
Yeah.
She done stole something? That's a lot of pressure on a young person.
It is.
You should have freedom to go in where you want to go,
right?
And with the mind that if I want to purchase something, I will, but I'm not forced to because they think I'm stealing. Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure.
That is the color of your skin make you got to buy something.
Right.
No, that's not right. My Lord.
So this is going to end our segment, Ladies of the Round Table. And basically what we were doing is just having a conversation about events that are happening in our communities, in our environments, in our families. And a lot of these topics and things that we're dealing with, they hit home. They hit home. Either we've experienced it or our loved ones have experienced it. And so I think having this platform and just talking about it, it's saying that we are no longer going to be silent. We are no longer going to just sit back and accept being treated like we're not human. You know, first of all, I'm a child of God. You are a child of God.
Amen.
And I believe that God has our back, and he's given us a voice.
Amen.
He's given us a voice, and we can speak up and talk about it. We don't have to accept being mistreated or abused, especially when we are educated.
Amen.
We've put in the work. We went to school. We work jobs.
That's right.
We're raising our children.
Right,
We're
right.
not just out here nilly-willy breaking the laws and
Right.
doing. Not saying that, you know, all cops are bad cops.
Right.
But I heard, and hopefully I'm saying this right, I heard Pastor Francis say, we can assume that all cops are bad cops until you prove that you're not a bad cop. You know, basically is what he said. All cops are bad cops until you are proved that you're not a bad cop, until you've had that encounter with the police officer and he's shown you that he's not a bad cop, you know. And so I thank Pastor Byron for allowing us to have this platform to have this conversation.
Amen.
And hope that we don't take this platform and take it lightly, and that we will continue to make a difference. You know,
Yes.
this is not solution focused, but what we are doing is we are talking about it. We're letting the world know that racism, injustice is not accepted. We will not
That's
sit
it.
down. We will not shut up. You
That's
know, Sister Debbie said that her white friends were reaching out during this time. She's identified that who are really true friends. You know, they're reaching out. How you doing? Same thing has happened to my son. His friends are reaching out. Man, they're apologizing. Not saying all white people are racist or are bad people, but we all have experienced or have encountered racism, and it's not on us.
Right.
It's not on us. It's not on us to fix it.
No.
We're holding them accountable.
They
They
created.
need to fix it.
They created.
They
They
need
have
to
to
fix
change
it.
it.
And so the thing is that we will not be silent. We will no longer allow white people to treat us as if we don't matter. You know, our lives don't matter, because our lives matter. And so I want to continue to pray that change is going to take place. Change has happened. There are some things that have changed, but we need to continue to see change in our communities, in our countries, in our country. You know, all over the world, there's things happening. People are protesting, so it's just not happening in the United States. It's happening everywhere. And so change is coming. Change is happening. We just got to stay prayerful and believe that God is still on the throne and he is still in control. I'm going to turn you in the hands of Pastor Byron. Pastor Byron.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Let's give our panelists and the women here, these beautiful women, a virtual hand clap. Thank each and every one of you for joining in with me on the panel tonight. And it's Pastor Byron.
Right. Amen. Great job, ladies. Thank you all. You all did a marvelous job. Thanks to everyone that tuned in via Facebook and YouTube. We hope that the conversation that was had tonight brought you some sort of healing and some comfort in knowing that what you're feeling and how you are managing these issues that we are confronted with, you're not alone, that there are others that share those same sentiments. All right, with that, we want to thank the ladies of the Lighthouse for coming out and sharing all of their wisdom and all of their experiences and being vulnerable and giving us the rawness of their experience. And we thank you all for that. All right, we're at the end of the line. We want to thank each of you again for tuning in. Stay tuned. On tomorrow night, we have our Bible study. Want you to tune in for that. And also, next Sunday, we'll be right here at 10:30 a.m. Sharing the Word of God with you. With that being said, we want to say thank you. We're praying for you. We pray that you and your family are safe. And we will see you all tomorrow. God bless you. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.